I quit the rat race at 54. I just stepped away from that cycle with no backup plan. No job, no income lined up. After 29 years, I just stopped. At that point, I was working as a senior strategic customer service manager, handling relationships for top global customers at Oracle, some of the top 100 customers globally. Let me tell you the story from the beginning, because on the surface, this may look like a sudden decision, but it wasn't. Around July, August 1993, I joined Master of Computer Applications, MCA, from reputed university. At that time, this was my dream. Getting into it wasn't easy. I worked extremely hard and cleared competitive exams like Common Admission Test, also known as CAT. This was not luck, this was effort. 3 years later, in August 1996, I graduated and got placed few months in advance through campus hiring. The first few years felt like everything was falling into place. Learning, growth, momentum. Things were moving fast in the right direction. Then in March 1999, I got the opportunity to move to the US. That was a big shift, completely different environment. I spent around 7 years there, working with global clients and some of the biggest companies. This was real exposure. Clients like JP Morgan Chase, Verizon Wireless, Convergys, MCA Welcome, Tibble. High expectations, but also high learning. And I have to say, the work culture in the US, especially in the early 2000s, was one of the best. Great colleagues, strong leadership, respect for your time, clarity in work. Not always perfect, but most of the time, great. At one point, I was working with JP Morgan Chase from their Midtown New York office. This was one of the peak of my career. In fact, I was working from 51st floor. Top pay, green card approved, walking through Times Square to office 4 days a week. This was the dream. If you had told me back in 1993 that this is where I would be, I would have said, that is awesome. I took a big decision after detailed discussion about it with my wife, and it took us around 4 to 6 weeks of research and analysis for taking such a bold decision. You would not expect. We choose to return to India for good. At the peak of my career, the reason was simple. My kids, their education. Professionally, it did not make sense. But personally, it was worth the risk. If you're interested, I can do a full video on how we managed this transition, the exact steps we followed. Please let me know in the comments. And for next 20 years, it worked out the way I had planned for my kids. That part was a big success. Another silver lining of my career, my role at Oracle as Cloud Security Product Manager during 2017 to 2019 was actually the second peak from career perspective. I was traveling across the world to meet internal and external stakeholders, including key customers. One of my colleagues used to say, Chetan has traveled half of the world during the year 2018. Different countries, different cultures, meeting global clients, partners, and internal stakeholders. I spoke at 100 plus public sessions globally with high profile decision makers as audience. Met few CXOs in the process. That exposure was incredible. The problem, as most of you may know, is the work culture I faced at India, with exceptions like 2017 to 19. Even in the metro cities like Bangalore, it can be intense. There was a pattern. 30 to 40% of office time goes into unnecessary overheads, not real work, unnecessary escalations, coordination overhead, paperwork, which may not add value to customers. It's almost like internal documentation were the priority. I always had customer as my top priority. I just could not change it to look like a nice guy internally and compromise on the real customer challenges. If you are lucky, only 60 to 70% of your time is actually productive. And trust me, this is true for majority of the professionals today. Then come March to April 2025. This did not happen overnight. The stress was building for months. By March, I could feel it clearly. And in April, I had to take the medical leave. Severe back pain, even sitting for long hours, became uncomfortable. Orthopedic surgeons' recommendations, physiotherapy for 3 to 4 weeks, complete rest, no compromise. And for the first time, I had to stop, not by choice, but by force. That changed everything. In other words, it was the turning point of my life, gave me time to think, observe my own life. And then something unexpected happened. Early September 2025, I got a meeting invite. My role was being eliminated just like that. And honestly, I could not stop smiling at this meeting, not because it was easy, but because I was ready. Severance package gave me the buffer I needed for the next phase. Yes, I lost remaining Oracle RSUs, the shares I get as a bonus, and very good employee benefits offered by employer. But I gained time and the freedom to choose, and that matters more. So just before my 54th birthday, I walked away. No next job, no backup plan. Week 1 felt like freedom. Week 2 felt a bit strange. Week 3, questions started. Because when you leave the rat race, you don't just leave your job, you leave your identity. Now something unexpected happened. Trust me, you are not ready for this. A few weeks back, a neighbor walked up to me and said, "You know what? I still work. He still work." And just looked at me. I smiled and blocked him permanently. As Naval Ravikant said at his book, your judgment matters. For many people, work is identity, validation, status, and stepping away challenges that, not just your decision, their belief system. And then comes reality, money, no income, and you start calculating how long this lasts. That is when I realize this is not just emotional, it is financial. If you are thinking about this, here are a few things I strongly recommend to each one of you. First, don't trade your time for money. Time once gone never comes back. Second, plan your evenings and weekends. Don't wait for retirement to live. Third, prioritize your health. Without it, nothing works. Fourth, start investing early. Let compounding do the heavy lifting. Fifth, build multiple income sources. It is also known as passive income while you are still working. And my favorite and the last, read. Books give perspective even when life doesn't. At 54, I walked away. No plan, no regret. If I could go back, I wouldn't change the decision. I would change the preparation. And now I'm building something new. Financial independence with multiple passive income streams. In my next video, I'll share exactly how, step by step. So tell me, would you walk away if you had the chance? Thank you.